Welcome to the March Home. I'm Brian Anderson, your host. Today we're going to go over some legislation that's happening right now inside the state of Florida. First, I do need to make a comment about last week's show. I filmed that up there at Fort Benning, Georgia. It was absolutely awesome to have Jeff Mellinger on there. I'm going to get him back on the show because what I did was make a big mistake. I didn't have wireless mics on them. The sound was bad quality. And it brings me back to my public affairs days inside the Army when he was the Command Sergeant Major of Multinational Forces Iraq. If I did something like that with the Sergeant Major, man, I would have been in trouble inside the military. But we will get him back on the show. We will revise that, and his story is a story we want to hear. The bills that are going on in the state of Florida, some big ones that we have going on. Last year we had a bill that was alternative treatment options for veterans. This bill right here was really big in a few different ways. There was only one other state that did something huge when it came to alternative treatment options. That was the state of Oklahoma. They looked at hyperbaric oxygen treatment for post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. So Danny Burgess, a representative from Zephyr Hills, took a bill that Congressman Gus Bilirakis put forth on the federal side and brought it down to the state side. Last year we didn't make it all the way through. This year it has appropriations of about $2 million. And it's to run a pilot program for alternative treatments like outdoor recreational sports, yoga, hyperbaric oxygen treatment, service dogs, equine therapy, some of the programs the Veterans Alternative does, like accelerated resolution therapy. Really cool legislation to help warriors get engaged in their local community with nonprofits, colleges, local businesses that provide some of these treatment options that right now aren't being offered inside the VA. So alternative treatment options for veterans, it's House Bill 303, Senate Bill 82. It's a really big bill, and I am pushing that with the most that I can because I know how helpful it is for our warriors in the state of Florida. There's another bill that is another awesome bill. This is part of Danny Burgess's VIP package. I will have him on the next segment right after this with Senator René García to talk about one of the bills that those two guys are working on together. This next bill is HB 179, House Bill 179. This bill would actually expand 211, the veterans portion of it, across the entire state. So what is the 211 system? Okay, so they've ran a pilot program in Hillsborough County. They trained some veterans on peer mentoring, and these are actual veterans with combat experience, actual veterans who've done various things, and they're peer mentors. They answer the phone. They talk to the veteran. 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. It can be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You on the phone with a veteran. It's expanding across the state, and it's a really good bill. This is going on right now. All these bills, they're going on through state legislation in Tallahassee. The lawmakers are talking about them, and so it's a good time to start reaching out to those guys, your local representatives, and talk about them. So the first bill was HB 303. Second bill was HB 179. The third bill is HB 326. I'm interested in this bill because it actually talks directly about getting special operations guys into law enforcement. So guys who've been trained for 2-3 years, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, guys who are actual operators within the special operations community. It allows them to go into law enforcement and learn a lot of the things they have to learn for the job while actually on the job. So on the job training. It's a pretty good bill. I think it should pass. The last bill, HB 403. HB 403 was introduced by Representative Avelia and Danny Burgess, and then you have Senator René García out of Miami who put this bill up. So we would actually be the very first state in the nation to have a bill like this. HB 403 is basically saying the state of Florida can contract with the federal government for an HMO medical system for veterans and their families. So we have the VA, and the VA, unbelievably great job in so many areas, but you have a warrior, say locally for me, Pasco County. They work here, they're 35 years old, they're 40 years old, they've got a full-time job, they have to take hours off from the day to go down to an appointment at James A. Haley. It's a lot of travel. Additionally, there's a lot of times that the choice program, does not work. The choice program, for all you veterans understand it, it allows you to go and get medical on the outside. So the choice program, Johnny Isakson, Senator Johnny Isakson from Georgia, did an IG basically review of implementation of the choice program. There were so many folks who weren't able to get the medical through the choice program, or the choice program wasn't paying for the medical system. So back to HB 403. It's an HMO. It's allowing the state of Florida to contract with the federal government to have a basically medical operation process where guys can sign up for medical. They can go into a hospital local to them, whether it be Baycare or HCA. You do have a primary care doctor. You have a list of doctors you have to choose from. But this is in addition to your VA services. And the other piece that's in there is that it actually allots for family to be a part of that same healthcare system. So when I look at it, what I look at is growing up, and while I was in the military, I had TRICARE Prime. TRICARE Prime is an HMO. Here's what's crazy about it. It's not the state of Florida who would pay for this. It's actually the federal government paying for it. Florida would be the very first state that we would see something like this work. Maybe it's something that really is awesome, and a lot of veterans get better medical treatment. A lot of veteran families get better medical treatment. Or maybe it's something that we test and we're like, okay, this can't be rolled out to all the states. But to think that maybe a veteran can use the VA or local doctors for their medical treatment, that absolutely gets me excited about the potential of what HB 403, Senate Bill 440 can actually produce. This would be the very first. This is innovation at its finest, and it's innovation for veterans and their medical services. I'm a big proponent of this bill. I think it's something that should pass. The bills that I think that you guys should definitely look at and take a peek at from the veterans is HB 303, which is the alternative treatment options for veterans. HB 179, that bill right there relates to the 211 and expansion across the entire state, where you have veteran peer mentors actually answering the phone 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever it might be. For any veterans who are calling up in distress. You've got HB 326 with the special operations guys being able to go right into law enforcement and do on-the-job training. And then you have HB 403, which is the Florida Veterans Care Program, allowing the state of Florida to negotiate with the federal government for a medical system for our warriors. I think these bills are great. You're going to hear a little bit about HB 403 in this next segment with Danny Burgess and Senator René Garcia. That was in Tallahassee, and these guys are talking a little bit about it and talking about some of the other things that they have up. I look forward to seeing you in the next segment, and we'll see you next week on the March Home.
Hey there, it's Andrew Campanella with School Choice Week, and I am really excited for a special event here in my home state of Florida. It's called Celebrate Youth, and it's taking place on January 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Pasco County Safety Town. It's a community-based School Choice Week event, and so many folks all across the community are working hard to put together an exciting event for everybody. There's going to be rock climbing, a petting zoo, a bouncy house, food vendors, and special guests like House Speaker Richard Corcoran. So it's free family fun for everybody, and I hope you'll attend Celebrate Youth January 27th from 10 to 2 at Pasco County Safety Town.
Welcome to the March Home. I'm Brian Anderson, and I am remote in Tallahassee with two great guys, Senator René Garcia, and you guys know Danny Burgess from our last time we had him on the show with Congressman Gus Bilirakis. And we're talking about a new bill that's out there. It's Senate Bill 440. And that's the bill that you kind of championed in, Senator Garcia. Can you tell us a little bit about that bill?
That we're championing it.
That you're both championing
Yes,
in.
and
it's HB 403, is that what it is?
I believe that's
HB 403, Senate Bill 440.
Yeah, I'm the prime co-sponsor in the House, Representative Brian Abalu, who's actually currently on active duty through Officer Commission School, is at Fort Benning, I believe, right now. He'll be back towards the end of the month. He's championing that bill in the House. I'm proud to support it in any way I can and be the prime co-sponsor.
So we have two guys in the House that are both in the Army Reserves that are sponsoring this bill. It has to be a good one if you have two guys in the Army Reserves. Tell us a little bit about the bill, Senator.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here and having this conversation. It's important to know that Here in Florida, we're trying to make Florida the most veteran-friendly state in the union, and this bill goes a long way to do that.
Yeah.
This bill, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is just make sure that we open up the negotiations with the federal government so we can have a conversation, negotiate on a better way to deliver health care to our veterans. As we very well know that the VA has been plagued with a lot of issues, a lot of wait times, and we have an infrastructure already in the state of Florida where we can deliver health care to our veterans. And why not open up that conversation, that negotiations, to make sure not only the veteran, but hopefully the veteran and their families start receiving health care through our managed care system here in the state of Florida.
That was actually one thing that I saw on there, is it said veterans and their families. And right now, you take a veteran who has access to the VA, well, that doesn't mean health care for their families. They're not getting taken care of unless they have TRICARE or some other kind of employee type insurance. Danny, you've got a lot of veterans inside your district. What do you think the benefit would be for these guys with a bill like this that passes, a negotiation that could happen afterwards, for them to have a different extension of health care?
Sure. It's a tool in the tool belt, right? Like, we're trying different ways to think outside the box to provide veterans with health care that is tailored for them and their needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, which I think is what we're starting to realize with the VA and how we're trying to reform those processes at the federal level. So what can the state do? This is a continuation of what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
With some of the bills that we filed in the state as well, that we filed on our side in the House and the Senate. And I think Senator Garcia's bill is right in line with all of that. This is an alternative for veterans, for something that may fit them better than just the one-size-fits-all model that really hasn't worked for many of our heroes.
So for our viewers, to give you an idea from my perspective, I don't know all the smart stuff that these guys know, but I look at it from I look at it from the example of the choice program. And I know that when I've had warriors sign up for the choice program, it's taking them forever to get outside medical services. But here we're establishing something instead of the state of Florida for guys to get health care in their local communities without having to drive an hour to their VA main hospital for some specialty care and things of that nature. It seems like it makes sense. And this is really, we're the first states to be taking on a task like this. This is almost like a pilot program for the federal government. Am I right about that?
Right, and that's the neat thing about this, right? Because we're being innovative. We have a robust managed care system here in the state of Florida. Managed care is here to stay, not only in Florida but across the country. And we see that encounter data has gone up for our population here. We see results coming back positive from all the recipients in our programs. And why not use that same system to make sure that we deliver health care to our veterans? Make sure that in the state of Florida, you see, when we look at the Medicaid program and when we look at Kid Care, and when we look at the CHIP program in the state of Florida, right now, all those HMOs have contracts with all the specialists across the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They have contracts with all the hospitals. They have contracts with all the providers. Why not use that system to provide care if the veteran so chooses to go into a system where they have the choice to pick what provider they want to go see? And that's what we're trying to accomplish in the state of Florida. And it's not only about them, it's about, if we can save the federal government, think about this for a minute, if we can save the federal government X amount of dollars by using the system that we have in the state of Florida, because they don't have to come up with their own system.
Yep.
That means that we free up dollars for the federal VA to reinvest to take care of their families. And that's what we're trying to accomplish in the state of Florida with this innovative idea of coming up and using the infrastructure that we have in the state already in place.
And this isn't a replacement for the VA's medical system. I mean, if you look at the VA medical system, we have so much history. And you got to meet my buddy Mike. He's been at James A. Haley and said their prep program. Hey, shout out to James A. Haley. You guys are doing great over there. The prep program's awesome for TBI. They have other programs and other information that they just have a history of. But for someone to go to the doctors for a cold, or they sprain their ankle, break their ankle, whatever it might be, going all the way down to James A. Haley is a far ride from Pasco County.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, so this seems like it would be a good shoo-in for it. Danny, what needs to be done on the House side to get this going through?
We're working that now. We actually just had a very productive meeting, Senator and our staff and healthcare staff in both chambers, and we're seeing what we can do to try to get this moving in the House. It's a great initiative, and I think that we'll see some success at the end of the day. Look, we're the most veteran-friendly state in the nation, but these initiatives are how we absolutely solidify our reputation as such and ensure that Florida's leading the way in the entire nation in healthcare reform for our veterans, healthcare alternatives for our veterans. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to brag on the senator, because it was a couple of years ago now where you marched on down to the Senate. It was your first time in Tallahassee.
This guy's a big saver of mine.
Yeah, Senator Garcia, this is a testament to him and his commitment to serving our heroes and the people who served us, because he had never met Brian before. Brian came on down, shared the story, and the senator committed and delivered that he was going to do everything he could to support not just your organization, but what that mission is in general. And look, we're talking about this bill here today.
Brian's a big guy. He was scary. He was a little intimidating. He had to do what he wanted to do.
It was hero, wasn't it?
It's crazy. So Senator Garcia is a big supporter of the veteran population. Danny Burgess is obviously a big supporter of the veteran population. Over the last 3 years, it's been such an honor to come up here and work with both of you guys. I look forward to this bill and keep on pushing forward and passing. I think it's going to be great for the state of Florida. And honestly, a little bit of innovation in healthcare and medical services when we're suffering as a veteran population so much across the board. This just seems like it's an added bonus, and this right here would help us kind of overcome some of the obstacles we're facing right now with our medical systems. It's a tough process. So guys, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for putting a bill like this up and fighting for our warriors.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you for your work.
Always an honor,
Thanks,
Brian.
man.
Good to see you again. Thanks for having me on again.
I appreciate it. It's good to have. This is the first one from Tallahassee.
I know. This is adjusting fire right here.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
This is
it's
the
great.
definition. This is great.